Hey YouTube, this is Citrine Princess. So I'm back again with a video. I'm going to be talking about the lady that went viral, Reesa Teesa, and she had the viral story, "Who the fuck did I marry?" So if you're triggered by people like if you're triggered by people like not criticizing but questioning Christianity or organized religion, then this video is not for you because I'm going to be getting into some religious trauma and I'm going to be talking about the chakra system. So if you're triggered by any of that, then this is not for you. I'm going to play the intro and then we're going to get into it. This is my new song, the acoustic remix for Guilty Pleasure. And Guilty Pleasure is actually a sacral chakra song, the orange chakra below the navel, and it's associated with emotions, pleasure, relationships, and creativity. Can you change the temperature of this light? Yeah, cool tone, warm tone looks better on me. All right, let's get it. All right, that was my song that I recorded in the studio. Okay, so Reesa Teesa, what do we want to say? Where do I even want to begin? So, for y'all that have seen this, or if you haven't seen it, this lady had a pandemic relationship. So that was a traumatic time because the world stopped. People were in isolation. That is traumatic in and of itself. So she did not want to be alone during the pandemic, and that's dangerous. Why? Because not being okay by yourself and not look at this solar plexus. I honor the power within me. I honor myself. So she wasn't honoring herself because Reesa Tessa didn't want to be by herself during the pandemic. And it was a scary time. I personally didn't date during the pandemic because I just felt like it wasn't safe. And I knew that some people were going to be taking advantage of the isolation during the pandemic. But this is not about me. Reesa Tessa was scared to be alone during the pandemic, so she met this guy off of a dating app. It wasn't a dating app. It was Facebook dating. I couldn't really take Facebook dating seriously. I did Facebook speed dating, and a lot of times the guys wouldn't even show up, so I got off of it. But somehow she matched with this guy. They call him Legion on TikTok, and she like at first he was doing her love language was acts of service. And so your love language is usually something that your parents or your caretakers didn't give you. So he at first he was fixing her car and he was doing all this stuff for her and he was paying her bills and she said it felt intoxicating. And as a single woman, I totally understand that because it's hard out here being on the grind, being independent. There's days where I get so tired I didn't feel like cooking my own food. So I totally understand the lure that he pulled her into. So she wasn't honoring herself. She wasn't okay by herself. and she was doing well. Like a lot of black women out here are doing well, having great jobs. Talking about the black community right now, she had it going for herself. She actually had a nice 3 bedroom townhome, which that is a lot to fill. I mean, I imagine she did feel empty in a big 3 bedroom house by herself. So this guy wasn't even on her level because Legion had like a studio apartment, little 1 bed, 1 bath, and she had a nice 3 bed townhome. And when you're not okay by yourself, you're not honoring yourself, then you can let demons in, you can let negative people in when you're not honoring yourself. And she has a lot of religious trauma. So I think, yeah, the solar plexus is the yellow one right here. So Tessa has a lot of religious trauma. The church is not teaching. I think in the church that's considered demonic to honor your own power because the church teaches you is God's power. They don't believe in this. And beliefs are powerful. People live and die off of beliefs. So I could tell because I listened to part one and two, and I could tell just by listening to Reesa that she had a lot of religious trauma because when you've grown up in the church, you're kind of isolated, you're kind of naive to the world. It sets you up for making it easy for a man to control you because this man that she joined herself with had character issues, was a pathological liar, and he wasn't really like he provided to a certain point, like he was paying her bills, but she still had to do her own. Like I think she said she had to pay her own car, but he paid her rent, and there were certain bills that she was still doing her own. I think she was paying her own car insurance, a car note, and so he wasn't really doing the whole thing, but it was still enough to feel intoxicating. So when you're desperate to be loved, you can let toxic people in. You can let the demons in when you're not loving yourself. Heart chakra at the center of the chest colors our life with compassion, love, and beauty. And I do, like when I'm feeling unwell, I will meditate on the heart chakra, and it just makes a big difference. The church, it believes that being lovers of self is a sin, and she was brought up in that, and I could tell she wanted to believe everything this man was saying. She knew there was a possibility that he wasn't telling the truth because she didn't tell her family what he was doing, and he had her like driving around and going and see, like it was the fantasy of nesting because she was driving around looking at houses, looking at cars. And at a certain point, he had her muling. It was exhausting to listen to because he kept having her go and test drive cars. It doesn't cost any money to test drive a car you're not actually going to buy. So he was playing the game real good. And he was a manifester. Like I don't know if he has out of control. He does have a problem, a spiritual problem. I don't know if he has out of control gifts or what, because he was a manifester. Because he was taking advantage of COVID and he was living this fantasy and pulling her into living this fantasy. And he also had her shacking up, which in the church is a big no-no. And so at one point she was believing his lies because that's what Christianity, it will teach you to believe a man. Men are supposed to be held accountable in the Bible. Thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. But the reality is, a lot of people that lie and steal, they hide behind the church, they hide behind religion. So she wanted to believe his BS. She wanted a man to worship, and that's just common things that is in the church and the black community. She really wanted to believe this guy, and he played the game. So he got her pregnant. They were living together, shacking up during COVID, and I do believe that there was some shame there because shacking up is not is looked down on in the church. So they were shacking up, and she at some point she was having unprotected sex with him. Here's the sacral chakra associated with pleasure, relationships, creativity, and through them having, I mean, think about it, through them having the pleasure of unprotected sex, they created a child. The child didn't come about, sadly, but at one point they were living together. When it's and a lot of times when you live with somebody and you're in close quarters, you can start bonding with them as a mate. And so she started to bond with him as a mate, and he was lying to her, keeping her subjugated through the lies, the fantasy of him providing. It was cruel what he did because she was naive. She wanted to believe the best in him, and I've been there. And it was like I was so embarrassed one time I went to therapy, and the therapist said, "You're." I told her I feel silly, I feel naive, and she told her it's not that you're stupid. You just want to see the best in people. So Reesa wanted to see the best in this man, and they bonded as a mate, and they were having, I feel like the church don't tell you, you living with somebody and you're having unprotected sex, and you're not used to it, and you get D down, ooh-wee, like you could lose your mind. Like women are known to lose it over D. That's why we have to protect our wombs, protect our yonis, and protect our hearts. Because when you're desperate for love, and you get that sacral chakra energy going, you creating a child. So I feel like he really did her in when she was pregnant because when she was pregnant, her motherly instincts kicked in overtime, and she was really trying to. She was like, "Okay, I have a baby now," so she was really trying to keep the family unit together because Black women, we love really hard. She kept chesting out, looking at houses and trying out cars, and she was really trying to keep it together then. So through her, through him having unprotected sex with her, getting her pregnant, it was keeping her subjugated to him. It was getting her emotions going, her, playing with her heart. you know he was using his words to play with her heart. And she was pregnant, and she was totally subjugated to him at that point. And she really wanted to keep that family together because when you get the D and you got that religious shame going on, sacral chakra is also associated with like shame and guilt behind your like behind things to give you pleasure. Because people that are brought up religious, they will, it makes the way they teach you that sex is dirty and bad, living together is bad, is frowned upon. Then you feel shame about things that are natural. Because in the spiritual community you can be spiritual and sexual, but in religion you cannot be sexual outside of the confines of marriage. So she was ashamed. And when I first started my spiritual journey, I went to a Nigerian hair braiding shop, and there was one African American woman in there braiding hair. And the Nigerians, she had their respect because they said she braided like an African, like she could braid fast. I told her a little bit about my story, that I started my spiritual journey and I was brought up in the church. And she told me that she met a woman that was brought up in the church, but she lost her virginity and she felt ashamed about it. Then she married a man that was in a church, and she didn't feel, I think the AC is going on off in my room. She married this guy that was in the church, and then it was like she felt guilty that she had lost her V card, and she slept with she went back to the guy that she had first slept with before that she married him. And she kept going back to him, and she was trying to rush around and cover it up, and her skirts was all crooked. And finally, the guy that she lost her V card to, she met with him somewhere in public, and he had his family with her, and he was like, hey, I got a family, I can't do this anymore. And somebody else told her, like, hey, everybody knows that y'all are messing around. And she felt so ashamed. So I can see Reesa Teesa, she got d down just like the lady that they told me about in the beauty salon. And this lady was trying to shame people. She was ashamed of her cheating, but she was trying to shame people that weren't dressing conservative at church. But Reesa Tessa she wanted to believe them lies because that's what the church tells you to do. Even though the commandments say thou shalt not lie, when men lie, we're taught we have to cover it up. So I feel for her. To me, she's a product of religious trauma. If you listen to her, you can tell she's a traumatized woman. I'm not judging what she experienced at all because I've gone through religious trauma too. Hold on, I gotta charge my laptop. Because at the end of the day, we're all grown. And when I started questioning being brought up Christian, that was the first thing I thought of is like, how do you think we all got here? Like, we all enjoy physical pleasure to some degree. So why is it so much guilt and shame around it within organized religion? But I can see how it set her up for this situation with Legion because she wanted to believe his lies, believe she wanted to be loved so bad, and you end up making bad decisions. I've been there. I had to, like, when I was in my mid 20s, I went on a self love journey, and I really believe it saved my life. But it's tied. I think there's that scripture in the end times, they will be lovers of self. And yes, narcissists take that too far. But you do need a healthy dose of self respect, self love to keep you out of dangerous situations with abusive people. Because I've seen it so much. Like, I've watched Love Is Blind, and some of the women on there are so desperate to be loved that they ignore all the signs of disrespect from the men that they want to be involved with. So just love, ladies, love yourself out there, and don't let anybody disrespect you. And it's just protection to love yourself at this point, because people out in the real world, they will do anything. They don't always see the truth in people, don't see what you want to see. That's what I would say. The crown chakra card came out. The crown chakra reveals a lot. That's one of the first things I learned on my spiritual journey. Relates to our higher selves and the realization that everything is connected at a fundamental level. And after spending that time in the church, the first time I went to Reiki, the Reiki practitioner told me that my crown chakra was blocked. This is like your spiritual gate, your spiritual energy center. It took a long time for my crown chakra to get unblocked. But yeah, Legion didn't speak the truth, and he got her pregnant and got all that stuff, kept her subjugated to him. Throat chakra, speak your truth. Throat, jaw, neck, and mouth. Communication, creativity, and self expression. She just, that's to me, Reesa Teesa. Some people are saying she's a scammer because she's made a way to monetize off of this. Who the fuck did I marry? I think she has her Cash App on her TikTok. I looked at her TikTok page, but it's about damn time that Black women got some money off of people abusing them. After all the years we've been exploited and abused, Black women are the most disrespectful. I'm sorry, I can't even talk. disrespected, unprotected women. It's about damn time we made some money off of the trauma that we've endured. It's about damn time. So I see it. She's a traumatized woman. So when I first started hearing her story, I watched the first part of it. I was like, we've got to. I was like, we've got to do better. We've got to go to the gym. We've got to go to therapy. We've got to do the inner work. We've got to stop letting these toxic people, toxic relationships get the best of us. She's just a traumatized woman. You see, and people are making it's just weird because with social media, people make money off of trauma. Trauma can be exploited for entertainment, but just love yourself, do the inner work, have a good amount of self respect. So if you like this video, if anything resonated with you, please like and comment. Peace.